It's a showdown. USA versus Europe. Let's see who comes out on top. A little bit of background, I am an American. I've been living in Norway for almost 4 years now. I feel like I have a little bit of insight on both sides. All right, let's go, let's do it.
About cultural differences between our country, our city, and United States of America.
Yeah.
First of all, you may be surprised what the beer looks like. Well, we have a video dedicated only to that. And second, when I walked in, I didn't look at a beer menu or something that may be quite common in the United States where you have different beers on tap. Most pubs and restaurants in Czech Republic will have one brewery on tap in the pub. So that's why you can walk.
That's wild, actually, because in the US, that like beer tap culture is huge. There are restaurants in the US that just have walls of these taps. Like, it's even a thing. There are some places where you get a card and you can load this card with money, and like you swipe your card and you can just pick whichever beer you want and go and choose from this like huge wall of beer. So it's definitely a thing to have all of the taps and all of the cool like tap knobs or whatever.
Walk in and just say, I'll have one. So I kind of like that. You walk into a pub and you don't have a million choices. You just say one. In US, not only you have a choice of beers that are on tap, quite often there's 5, 10, 20, but also they will ask you, do you want draft or bottle? What kind of question is that? The reason you go to a pub is to get beer on tap, to get draft beer. If you want bottled beer, you go to a supermarket. So for us, that's a big cultural difference that quite often we don't understand. Now, a beer here costs 55 crowns. Let's call that $2.50 to round it up. If you go to a stadium, to a sports event here in Prague, it's going to cost around $3. Well, nothing like that in...
That's so cheap. That's cheap for the US, and that's so cheap compared to Norway. Beer in Norway, I think like a cheap beer in Norway could be like $6. That's like a very cheap beer. Most of the time you're gonna be paying $10+ for one glass of beer. $2.50 and $3 is mind-blowing.
US. If you go to a pub, it may cost $5, $6, and you go to a stadium and it can cost $10, $15, even $20. Honza hates it. Whenever he goes to a sports event, he's always shocked with the price of the beer. I myself, when I travel to US, I usually don't go to sports events, but I like amusement parks. And just recently, I visited Universal Studios. It was the most expensive beer I ever had in my life. $15.
Everything at Universal is expensive. First of all, you're not going to find anything at Universal Studios that's under $10. It's just not possible, really. And amusement parks, stadiums, museums, like any type of park like that or outing like that, prices are going to get jacked, skyrocketed, especially Disney and Universal. It's gonna go way up.
Also, fun fact, I did not take a picture of the beer, but I did take a picture of the receipt. Now, the price of the beer, as I said at the amusement park, was $15, but I was asked to pay more than $16. Why? It said 15. Well, tax was not included. What is this about? We go to a place, and I'm not only talking restaurants, but any store, shop, and the price tag is the final price you pay. It says 55 here, it's gonna cost 55. They include the tax. Why don't you do that in US? It's just sad.
It is sad. I don't know why we don't do it in the US. Truly, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion. And it is annoying because you go to buy something in the US and it says like $9.99. However, you know that with tax, you're going to be paying over $10 for sure, maybe even 11. I don't know why the price tags say $9.99 instead of the included tax price. It makes so much more sense to just include it in the amount. I don't know.
Now let's switch from drinks to food. In any place, you can get some food, right? Mostly you pick something from the menu and no further questions will be asked.
I love food in the US. I miss food in the US so much. There are so many options and it's just so good. fast food, grocery store food, like all food in the US is just so much better, in my opinion. Sorry.
Well, in US, quite often they will ask you how you want it customized. Do you want bacon? Do you want that cheese? Do you want this cheese? Do you want this?
That's nice. I think that's nice. I like that.
Now, to be fair, if you go to a restaurant in Prague nowadays and you will have a burger, they will ask you how you want it done. But once again, the fact that you can customize anything at a restaurant in US is very uncommon.
Waffle House. Man, I miss Waffle House. So good. Just a big old plate of waffles, some crispy hash browns beside it. I miss it.
So if you come to a pub or a restaurant in Czech Republic, don't expect that you can customize every single item on the menu. That's why there's a menu with things that you pick from. I really hope we didn't lose our subscribers from the United States. We love you guys. So to say something that we consider to be amazing in US that we don't have here is water. Free water at a restaurant, at a bar, anywhere. You sit down at a table and in US, you get a glass of water. Never happens in the Czech Republic ever. Not only that, if you ask for tap water, quite often they will say, no, we don't serve tap water. And you will get a tiny little bottle of water that you will pay for $2, $3, $4. It's ridiculous.
What? That's stupid. I don't like that. Here in Norway, you get water on your table whenever you go to a restaurant, no matter what, and it's free, of course. And most of the time in the US, you can go anywhere and ask for tap water and they'll give it to you for free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Like you can walk into Starbucks, McDonald's, wherever, a gas station, whatever, and just get a cup of water and it's gonna be free no matter where you go. One of my favorite things in the US was when I was in college, we had a Starbucks on campus, and before class would always walk in and I would get the venti size of ice water, and for some reason it's just so good. It's so crisp and a nice flavor of water, and I would always do that before class and it's free, and I loved it.
Yes, quite often it is rude and not polite at all. That's also a huge difference for us when we go to US and a waitress will come to our table and she will introduce herself and she will smile and she will maybe recommend something from the menu. That would never happen here. I mean, it's changing, don't get me wrong. Service is getting better. But if you go to like a local place, a dive bar, which I would consider this place to be, quite often they'd be grumpy and it takes a long time for them to get to know you. And after maybe a 20th visit, they will share a little smile with you. Not like in US. First time visitor, oh, I love coming you to our restaurant. My name is Wendy. Can I take your order? Hey, Wendy. Speaking of Wendy, when I was first called darling or honey in a restaurant in US, I was like, she really loves me. She just called me darling. I like that. I mean, I like the bartender here, but...
Oh, I was a server. I was a server at Olive Garden. They tell you, turn on the charm, because your livelihood quite literally depends on it. I think my hourly salary at Olive Garden was like $5 or something. So if I wanted money and a good amount of money every month, I had to make tips. Like I had to. It was turn on the charm and make sure you're upselling people on foods and drinks. So you get to the table, hi, my name is Megan, I'll be your server today. You just starting a conversation, you're smiling, you're trying to make everybody feel nice and provide them with a nice service, because how they like you depends on what you're gonna make that month. It's crazy. The restaurant will actually grade you almost on how much you're able to upsell. You're going in and you're making sure that people are ordering drinks and they're ordering appetizers, because you want those checks to be as expensive as possible, because it just means more of a tip for you. And you get friendly with a lot of these customers that come in, especially if they're repeat customers, and you want that. You want to do that because that means that next time they come in, hopefully they'll ask for you and they'll say, hey, Megan was my server last time, can we have her again? Is she here? And if they say yeah, and they go to my table, most likely they're going to tip me even better than last time. So you're looking for that. It's a lot of pressure, truly, because your livelihood depends on the fact of how accommodating and nice can I be.
Even though the two of us consider the service at places in the United States very good and very nice and very polite, there is one thing that we consider to be very rude. And that is, you're finishing your meal, or maybe you're halfway through, and suddenly a bill lands on your table. What is that? Are you kicking me out? That would never happen here. Any business, restaurant, pub, coffee place tries to keep you in the place as long as possible. You're done with your meal, they'll offer you a dessert. You're done with your dessert, they will offer you coffee. You're done with your coffee, maybe you want to start over and have another appetizer. In other words, they want to keep you in as long as possible. You have to ask for the bill.
It depends completely on what restaurant you are in the US. I know when I was working at Olive Garden, you kind of wanted to turn the tables pretty quickly. So I don't ever remember just dropping off someone's receipt. I also think that's kind of rude. I think it's also rude to come up to a table when you can tell that they're still eating and say, how was everything? You know, what can I take out of your way? Blah, blah, blah. I think that you need to wait at least until you can visually see that most people are done. But it is a thing. You do want to turn the tables fast, especially if you're busy. I can remember some Saturday nights, there was a line out the door. You know, we had an hour, 2-hour wait for people to come eat at the restaurant, and your managers are like, come on, let's go, let's get people out of here, So you are rushing through it in a sense, where as soon as you see that people are done, you're like, hey, can I get you the check? Can I get some of this out of your way? Do you want me to box this up for you? You know, so you are wanting to turn the tables pretty quickly. However, if you're at a nicer restaurant, they're most likely not gonna do that to you. It's just those almost like middle of the road restaurants like Olive Garden, Applebee's, like where he was at, that they're gonna try to turn you fast and get you out of there. But that's just because there's so many people that are trying to eat there, and they most likely have a pretty long wait, or your server is done for the day and she wants you to leave. So she does that as well. She's like, okay, my clock is done, I'm ready to go. They told me I can leave, but I still have this table and they're just sitting there. They're not doing anything. So I'm just gonna bring their check, put it on their table, and hopefully that signals to them like, hey, get out of here. Yeah, so it happens. Apparently it happens.
Speaking of the bill, let's dive into tipping. And that can create some big issues because that's a big cultural difference. In US, quite often we get asked, do you want to tip 15, 18, 20, 25%? Which for us is like, whoa, that's a lot. A quarter of the bill just tips because it's a tip-based country or tip-based business. In Czech, that used to be very, very different. I mean, my dad would only round up the bill to the next higher number. If the bill was 99, he would round it up to 100. I believe most of our dads and mothers still do that. Nowadays,
unfortunately, people do that in the US as well. And coming from a server, it was extremely annoying. I hated those people.
It's changing even here, and tipping goes from 10% higher if you're satisfied with the service. If the service is really bad, some people will simply not tip. If that would happen in US, that you would not leave a single cent on a tip, I've experienced people running out of the restaurant and be like, what happened? What did we do wrong?
Oh yeah. People will get angry if you don't leave a tip. I can remember servers actually like going after the person and saying, hey, did you mean to not leave a tip? Because it's rude over there. Like I said, your livelihood depends on these people giving you a good tip. And most of the time, if you're working at a restaurant like Olive Garden, you have money coming out of your tips as well, because you have the bartenders, the bussers, you have the line cooks, everyone who also needs to benefit from this money that's coming in. So a little percentage of your tips is coming out to give to them as well. And if a table doesn't tip you, you are paying for that table. So instead of whatever tip they're giving you covering what you pay to the busser and the bartender, it's now coming out of your hourly pay and your hourly salary. So you are quite literally paying for that table to pay the bartenders and the bussers. So it is extremely annoying in the US if you do not leave a tip. Tipping here in Norway is, you don't do it. Like, you can, of course, they give you the option, but you just don't do it really. You kind of do like how he said his dad is, where he rounds up the check. I think that's definitely more normal than giving an actual percentage, which is nice. I can remember like going to get my hair done or whatever it may be, like you don't have to leave a tip, which is, it's nice. It's kind of freeing to not have to do that, but you know that they're getting paid a good amount of money to be doing what they're doing, and they're being paid livable wages to do this. You know, their livelihoods don't depend on the fact that you're leaving a tip. So that's the difference, really.
Now let's drop the beer for a minute and let's talk about coffee and coffee culture differences between USA and Europe. Triggered already? Well, you'll get triggered more. Yes, in Europe, we do not consider this to be a cup of coffee. That's a gallon of coffee. If it's more than a gallon, it's not coffee. This is a cup of coffee. By the way, shocker, they have a cup of coffee in this pub.
That's a shot of espresso. That's not a cup of coffee. This is a cup of coffee. This mug. I used to have a espresso maker. I did not like it because I drink like 6 espressos a day. Now I found these mugs, like actual mugs here. Nespresso, thankfully, sells 230 milliliter coffee pods now, and that's amazing. That's a cup of coffee. That is not a cup of coffee.
It's served in a ceramic cup. It's this size. You have a plate under it. It makes that little noise when you put it down. You sometimes even get a spoon with it so you can mix your little espresso. And this is how you drink it. Not a gallon. Doesn't fit in your car so you can drive and sip on your little coffee soup throughout the day. Big difference.
It's the American culture though, baby. That stuff's so good. And it's stuff that I miss. Going to the store, going and running errands and grabbing my little Starbies on the way there and just sipping in the car while I'm singing my songs.
Hold your horses. I know that coffee culture in US is changing depending on which state you live in, if you live in a city and so on. But still mostly people think this is coffee and you cannot get this. It's sad for us Europeans.
It's a different vibe. I understand the vibe of the tiny cup and the cafe seating and I get it. And I love it as well. It's just a different experience.
Are not the only cultural differences between our continents. There's many more. So let us know in the comments if you want us to cover more topics. And while you're there, please don't be mad at us. This was not made to insult you, only to give you perspectives on our culture habits and your cultural habits.
I'm not mad at you. It is interesting though, just how different culturally the US is from Europe, and things that happen here and why and who's better and who does it better and blah 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 blah. They're just different. That's how it is. They're just different. A little bit of housekeeping. Please like this video and subscribe. Also, I have channel members now, so you can join. There's a button down below. I am super excited to get to know a lot of you here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.